Welcome everybody to our presentation called We Wait Because We Know You, Inside the Ransom Negotiation Economics. My name is Pepijn and I'm a cybersecurity analyst at Fox IT. I've been at several departments now and I have a background in criminology, crisis and security management. I'll be giving this presentation together with Zong-Yu. Zong-Yu, please introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, Pepijn. My name is Zong-Yu, and I'm the guy who really tear ransomware apart. And I'm working at the threat intel department as a threat analyst. So my daily job is reversing the malware, building automatic analysis platform. Pepijn.
Thanks. So let's set the stage. What will we be talking about? I want you to imagine you're the CEO of a company and it's 1:30 on a Saturday morning and you just received a phone call from the head of your IT department. When you arrive at the office, he tells you that your company got hacked and infected with ransomware. After assessing the damage and assembling your crisis management team, you open the ransom note. The demand is $3.5 million. You feel your gut sink in your stomach. Because you spent years trying to building your company from the ground, and you think about all the people who work for you and all the families they provide for. The ransom note contains a link which sends you to a Tor website where you can chat with the people who hacked your company. But after telling them that you need more time to even start thinking about making a payment, all they respond with this: "We wait." During this presentation, we will present to you the answer to the research questions we asked ourselves. But first, let me explain why we did this research in the first place. We all know that ransomware is a big problem, and we don't see it getting better anytime soon. So when a company gets hit with ransomware, they find themselves in the middle of a crisis. And one thing that makes a crisis more manageable is to have as much information as possible. So we asked ourselves, what information can we provide to companies who get hacked or the people who try to help them? And we strongly agree that not paying is ultimately the best solution. And we'll give examples of why, because we investigated that. However, in the second half of the presentation, we'll also go into the situation when that's not possible, when paying is the only solution. So we did research into the question of how adversaries set their price and how information asymmetry influences the negotiation. Furthermore, we asked what strategies are there that can be used during the negotiation to lessen the damages. Well, and just like with any other research project, we needed data to answer these questions. And Zong-Yu will now be telling you more about where we got that data.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Pepijn. So before we jump into details, I'm giving a short introduction of a ransomware negotiation page and its process. So after a victim copy and paste the URL in the ransom notes into the Tor browser, it directs the victim to a page which has the initial price at the left-hand side. And in this case is 300,000. And also there's a dialogue session in the right-hand side, which is for a victim and ransomware adversary to negotiate the final price. So in this research, we focus on the final price because in our opinion, for a financial motivated attack, the final price, the final ransom cash-in is represent the profit baseline in each attack. All right, let's play again and think ourselves as an attacker leveraging the ransomware. So we are going to make profit as long as these factors can be taken care carefully. These factors including the final price should be high enough. And also there should be enough percentage of victim pay in the end. Also our cost for hosting malware, for penetration testing and developing tool sets should be covered. And last but not least, the risk factor shouldn't be ignored. So what makes this business complicated to drive as these factors are intertwined. Now, here comes a simple decision problem we need to make. So given that the ransom price versus the willingness to pay has a negative correlation, it means if the price is higher, then less people would pay. So would you choose a business model that only a small number of victims paid, but each payment is significant? Or on the other hand, is a large number of victims paid, but each ransom is smaller? Okay, I hope you all have your best strategy in your mind. So the question we are answering is, how about the actual ransom actors, how they play this game in the real world? We try to answer this question by data. In this research, we use major two ransomware negotiation data sets collected by ourselves. So within the left, the first one, we have 681 negotiations, and 70% of them decided to pay in the end. So apparently the the ransom paid in the first data set, the data was collected back to the mid of 2019. And at that time, ransomware has just started. So this group is one of the initiator of the ransomware epidemic. On the right-hand side, on the other hand, this data set was collected at late of 2020. And at that time, the ransomware attack has become more professional. And we test our hypothesis in the first data set and figure out how the adversary set the price. And also we carefully study the second data set to think of our negotiation strategy, because when the second data set is collected, the ransomware negotiation process has become more professional. I'm introducing a metric used in this research called ransom over revenue. This ransom over revenue is how the percentage of revenue was paid as ransom in the year the victim got breached. For example, in our data set, the victim company who paid roughly 100 million at that year, they earn roughly $1 million US dollar at that year, and they pay around 36,000. So for every million they earn, 363 US dollar was paid to the ransomware again. So with all the data calculated, it is plotted to the figure at the right-hand side. Surprisingly, most of them are in a certain range. It gives a sense that there's a baseline. To dive deeper into the result, we further divide the victims into two subgroups according to the victim's annual revenue. Interestingly, as we can see at the figure at the left-hand side, the data is quite compact, especially when the company earns more than 100 million. So what does this mean? Well, the data shows if companies they earn similar revenue and they both got infected by that actor, and they both decided to pay, eventually they are likely to pay the similar ratio in ransom. Besides, we found small and medium enterprise company pay less in absolute values, but relatively higher in percentage of their revenue. And we are still studying the reason behind it. So the results suggest the baseline of the final ransom price within actors' mind exists. The revenue, the size of the company, these two factors are important when actor is labeling the price. Of course, the visibility of the data is limited, so we don't expect that all the factors can be exhausted. However, make this result worrying is attacker always know how much a victim would pay beforehand. It is because a victim is likely to be forced to play this game for the very first time. On the other hand, the attacker has been playing this all day long and they know what's in your hands. Well, even we got these results, the second half of this research is going to talk about the ransomware negotiation strategy. So, but why? I have just told you, in this situation, victim can't win. So even though paying ransom is the best choice, and we also realize there are worst scenario that only to pay is the choice. So in this situation, Pepijn will be talking about what we have learned from the success and the failure story of these ransomware negotiations.
Thanks, Yu. So what can we do? We just learned that adversaries have quite the advantage during a negotiation. However, luckily, the adversaries are also just humans. And humans make mistakes or are able to be influenced into making certain decisions. Unfortunately, today we don't have the time to explain all our findings, but we have chosen to highlight our most interesting ones. If you want to know more, we will be publishing our full research paper soon, so keep an eye out for that. The first strategy I want to discuss is be respectful. Now, to some of you, this might sound obvious. To some of you, this might not sound obvious, because you could say, well, why would I be respectful to someone who hacked my company? And that's right. A crisis can be an emotional roller coaster. There's a lot at stake, and owners of companies can rightfully get very emotional. However, we have seen multiple examples of victims getting frustrated or angry in conversations, resulting in chats getting closed. And good luck getting your files back then. So you need to take a step back and look at the ransomware negotiation as a business transaction. Hire outside help if needed, but stay professional. Being kind will lead to a better outcome. This is a quote I want to share with you from one of the negotiations we looked at. And well, this was there was a woman doing the negotiation, and she said, "Since I learned about your very positive reputation in providing decryption keys, looking forward to hearing your thoughts, respectfully," and then her name. Well, just as an example of how to, well, keep it professional. The second strategy we wanted to discuss is do not be afraid to ask for more time. Adversaries will usually try to pressure you into making quick decisions. This is often done by threatening to leak documents or by doubling the ransom after a certain amount of time. And the more stress the adversary can impose on you, the worse your decision making will be. However, in almost all cases from the second database, the adversary was willing to extend the timer when negotiations were still going on. This is a quote from a negotiation that was already 2 days past the timer, and they asked for more time because they needed to pay $12 million and they didn't have it at that moment, so they asked for more time. And after this, the adversary replied saying that they needed to make a payment within 24 hours of $1 million, and they would get another week for the rest of the 12 million. And the victim replied that they were saying, well, they were really trying. We've been working all night to gather the funds to buy more time, and we aren't there. $1 million isn't going to be possible right now. Can you please give us some more time? Well, this went back and forth a couple more times, but in the end, they got the timer extended for more than a week, and they ended up paying only $1.5 million instead of the 12 million, which was initially asked. So you can really see that there's definitely some leeway with these negotiations. So don't be afraid to ask for more time. The third strategy we wanted to discuss is promise to pay a small amount now or a larger amount later. This is quite conflicting with the previous ones, but keep in mind that you can negotiate for different reasons. If you want to stall for time, use the previous strategy. If you want to pay now, get your stuff back together because you know you don't have backups, for example, and your business needs to get going. This is a strategy that will suit you. So why does this work? Well, as I've said earlier, hackers are also just people. And everyone who has seen the marshmallow test, if you haven't, go look it up on YouTube. It's great. If you have seen it, you will know that people are not that good at delaying gratification. And furthermore, you're not just dealing with a single person who hacked your company. Most of the time, there's an entire network of people who will have been dealing with you. And often the negotiator himself will also have a boss who tells them what to do. So these adversaries, they have an incentive to close the deal quickly, move on to the next target, and earn more money. This is an example from a case in which the initial demand was $1 million and the company ended up paying $350K. And this is not the victim who's saying this, but the adversary. And he said, I spoke to my boss and explained your situation to him. He approved the payment of $350K. There will be no more discounts. Raise your price by $50K and we'll close this deal now. So you can see there's an incentive on their side and a boss apparently who he needs to talk to. So this is a tip that really works if you want to get it over with quickly, but pay less. Then the fourth strategy. One of the most effective strategies overall is to convince the adversary you can simply not pay that much money. In one example, a company was asked to pay $2 million and they asked for a discount. Well, then the adversary gave them a $50K discount and they ended up paying $1.95 million. So, well, they quite quickly got a discount and, well, that seems like a good deal. However, there are also a lot of examples in which much less has been paid after more drawn out negotiation. For example, the previous case, which we just discussed, the initial demand was $1 million and it was talked down to $350K. There was also one in which $1 million was talked down to $150K. And this is a quote from a case we worked out completely in our paper. And in this case, a victim successfully talks down a ransom demand from 13 million to only $500,000. And one of the things you can see what they did was, well, they kind of threatened to accept what will happen if they didn't get the decryption key at all. And this was rather at the end of the conversation, but that really drove the message home that, well, they couldn't pay and they were accepting what would happen if they, well, didn't get the decryption key at all. Now you might think, but surely this doesn't always work, right? Zong-Yu just told me that they can look at our financial statements and decide we can pay more. And we thought the same. However, adversaries very rarely made remarks about financial statements. And we speculate that this might be because the ability to hack a company and the ability to read and dissect complex financial statements might not have as much of an overlap. There was even one Fortune 500 company case we analyzed where we saw that the initial ransom demand was close to $30 million. And even they managed to talk it down to 14.4 million. So even if you're a Fortune 500 company, there is still a lot of room for improvement. The last strategy I wanted to discuss is that with the rise in cyber risk, we also see a rise in cyber insurance that's being bought. And while we don't want to go into the debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, one important strategy we propose is to keep it a secret that you have a cyber insurance. Because if the adversaries find out, the negotiations will become a lot more difficult. And this is one thing they did notice and did talk about, the adversaries, And I want to read this quote to you. Yes, we can prove you can pay $3 million. Contact your insurance company. You paid them money at the beginning of the year, and this is their problem. You have protection against cyber extortion. I know that you are now in trouble with profit. We would never ask for such an amount if you did not have insurance. And I want to give you another one. Look, we know about your cyber insurance. Let's save a lot of time together. You will now offer 3 million and we will agree. I want you to understand we will not give you a discount below the amount of your insurance. Never. If you want to resolve this situation now, this is a real chance. So, as we said, if possible, do not tell anyone you have cyber insurance. Keep the files off your servers, print them out, I don't know, but make sure nobody finds out. So keep that a secret, especially the amount you're insured for. So to conclude, what we have learned is that ransomware negotiations are an unfair game. Adversaries can learn from previous experiences and they have more information about the victim than they know what to do with. However, they're still just humans and we can take advantage of that. And depending on what your goal is during a negotiation, we've provided you with different strategies to gain back some of the advantage. So let's take a look back at the hypothetical case we opened with. We wait. That was their reply after you told them that you need more time to even start thinking about making a payment. And now, after the investigation is over, all the systems have been restored, it became clear to you that they were indeed not in a hurry. They had been in the company systems for 3 weeks prior to rolling out the ransomware. They had access to all your internal documents, including your financial statements. They knew everything about you and you knew very little about them. They waited because they knew in the end you would pay. But how much did you end up paying? The full $3.5 million, they asked, or did you pay less? Or did you not end up paying at all? The end of the story will not be told by us, but by the countless of cases that will continue to happen in the future. And we just hope that by sharing this research, we can add some fuel to the defending side. We've demonstrated how powerful the adversaries can be during the negotiation, but we've also tried to create a safety net for the unlucky victims who have fallen. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation.